Hello listeners everywhere. Welcome to the Archive of Audio Antiquities, a voyage into the vault of wonders on the wireless. In a moment, Simon Exton and Ken Moss will be here to speak to you.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome back to the Archive of Audio Antiquities. Thank you for paying us a visit again. My name's Ken Moss.
I'm Simon Exton.
And this time we're listening to all 4 adventures in the Space 1889 series from 2004. This was a series of audio adventures based on the works by Frank Chadwick. Dr. Exton, you know a little bit more about the background to this than I do. This is an RPG, isn't it?
It is. It's a tabletop RPG, originally released by Games Workshop back in 1989. And I remember playing it in 1989 and really thoroughly enjoying it. It's a bit clunky as a game system, but the setting is wonderful. It's all that late Victorian science fiction, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, Conan Doyle, but translated to space adventure and looking at Mars and Venus and the moon. What would be the closest modern equivalent? Oh, Empress of Mars.
Yeah, it does have that feel to it. Well, Noise Monster produced 4 audio dramas way back in 2004, and we've listened to all of them. And first up is Red Devils, written by Jonathan Clements. Destination Mars. In 1889, the ether ship Perbendesh approaches the Red Planet. Her passengers, an assembly of the great and the good. But everyone has a secret. The Perbendesh carries a cargo of conspiracy and intrigue, and not all aboard will live to see Mars. The game's afoot, and it is the greatest game of all.
Trim 1 point sunward, number 2.
Very good, sir.
Trim 1 point sunward.
1 to sun. Aye, aye.
How is she sailing, Mr. Williams?
A momentary loss of sunlight on the gain mirror. We reorientated to keep the turbines on the boil. It's in the log, sir.
Marvellous, Williams. You are a credit to the service.
Thank you, sir. Sir?
Yes, Williams?
Are you forgetting something, Captain Carter?
Yes, Williams. I was trying very hard.
Dinner is at 8, sir, and by the bridge clock it's 2 minutes past.
I entreat you, Williams, a disaster of some sort, a diversion.
The ship is running smoothly and without incident, sir.
I shall remember your efficiency, Williams. I shall recommend you for a promotion. Then you shall be sorry.
Very good, sir.
This starred a host of people, lots of whom became well known for Big Finish. So people like Ian Brooker, Joe Castleton, Toby Longworth, Katarina Olsen, and Anthony Daniels puts in a guest appearance as Captain Carter in this one. Dr. Exton, this was fucking marvellous.
Yes, the first 3 form a trilogy of one ongoing plot set over 3 different locations. So this one is set on board an ether ship. It's basically a Victorian steam vessel, but in space.
And it's actually explained how the thing is propelled. It's not just, yes, Victorians in space, we got there first. There's a vaguest whisper of a pretense on how these things are propelled and function, which I really liked.
Oh, yeah, there's loads and loads of detail. Liftwood and how the ships are propelled and the communication. They've got a giant semaphore thing. But by using their heliograph and transmitting things backwards and forwards, then they can possibly give away their location. So because of a lot of the sort of the intrigue that's going on, the ship that they're all on board that's heading towards Mars and is taking in a new governor for one of the cities and a returning prince, and pretty much everybody has a backstory. Nobody's really quite what they appear. A couple of people are. There's a professor who's a bit bumbly, who is actually every bit as bumbly as he appears. It's a fantastic setup. It's a really good murder mystery on board a ship without there actually being a murder, but there's spies and intrigue and dastardly dealings. And
my first feeling about this was that it was World War One in space meets Titanic with a good dash of storm warning involved. And put all those together, it works, because the Germans, incredibly, are the main antagonists.
I would have said the Crimea rather than World War.
Yeah, it was only because of the inclusion of the Germans, really, but they're the main antagonists and they've got their own space fleet, and the first 3 releases in this series are tied up with something called the Alina Stone, which is this ancient Martian artifact, basically a hunk of rock, but very valuable to the Martian aristocracy. The English are taking it back, and the Germans want to stop them for reasons unknown.
And the Germans, and actually later on in their series, the Russians, aren't the only antagonists that you've got here. And they're Victorian era antagonists. So there's actually quite a big section on Belgium as an antagonist, because the Belgians would have had quite a significant empire in the Victorian era. There's whole sections about the Fenians that only get mentioned in passing here.
Oh, yes, it's all very, very steeped in history of the time. I mean, I was quite surprised at how moustache-twirling the Germans are. This is very much... there's no moral tale here, or if there is, it's very thinly buttered.
Yeah, it's proper boys' own adventure stuff.
It is,
but
yes.
In a steampunk spaceship, probably about 15 years before the word steampunk was invented.
Really? Was that... Or are you talking about 1988 rather than 2004?
Oh, 1988, yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember steampunk as a genre being discussed at the time that this came out.
But yes, the episode ends by the Perbendesh, the ship that they're all on, being quite literally blown in half in space, with the 2 halves sailing down towards Mars. End of episode, you know somebody's going to survive. You don't know how, it's never really explained, even when it is explained in the next episode. But first episode, I thought this was a really strong start. I really genuinely enjoyed this one.
Yes, had interesting characters. It's a very RPG thing, but there isn't a single character who doesn't have some kind of alternate backstory, and you've got German agents there and young girls who are...
Plucky young girls
who aren't quite what they seem.
I think the only one that stuck out for me was Katarina Olsen as Charlotte Wong, who is very clearly described in the script as being a person of colour. Katarina Olsen is not a person of colour, and all I could hear all the way through was Adelaide from Horror of Fine Rock.
Oh, yes. In terms of the way they sounded, I thought that there was very little difference between the 2 women, and there were times I wasn't really sure who was in which scene.
Have to agree with you on that, yes. That was a very minor niggle.
Well, it's only a problem with this one, because although they both reappear in the other 2 stories, it's one each.
But sadly, they still sound the same.
Yeah, but as there's only one of them to think about, then that becomes less confusing. And there are some fantastic performances in there. For all they sound quite similar, and, you're putting on an RP Victorian accent, then they're going to sound quite similar. And they were both... Charlotte was still playing the part of being a little bit flighty and flibberty-gibbety in this one, until her part of what's gone on is made clear right towards the end. But yeah, it was a little difficult to work out which one was which.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one. But moving on, the second adventure is The Steps of Thoth, written by James Swallow. When a dangerous secret is lost in the Martian desert, a ragtag team of adventurers must come together and travel beyond the canals of Syrtis Major and into the savage wilderness known as the Steps of Thoth. It's a journey fraught with danger and intrigue, bold expedition into the heart of the Red Planet, with the future of Mars hanging in the balance.
Sir Henry, Captain Folkes is here, sir.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. That'll be all.
Captain Roger St. John Folkes, Syrtis Major Garrison, Queen's Own Martian Rifles reporting, Governor.
Folks, did you deal with that hooligan, Williams?
Yes, sir. I led the firing squad. Beastly business.
Are you showing sympathy for a criminal, Captain? He was an accomplice of cutthroats and pirates, a traitor to the crown.
I meant the whole mess. Loss of the ship and all.
Frankly, I would pay it no mind if Alkium wasn't vital for our commerce. We need their goodwill, and they want their bloody stone back from the British Museum.
Stone, sir?
Oh, for heaven's sake, folks. You've been up here longer than I have. Don't you know about these things? The arena stones, sacred pebbles, or some such.
Oh.
They have significance to the Martians. I have a task for you. I'm going to take a pipe on the balcony. Come, I'll explain.
This one introduces, or rather continues, because he did appear right at the very, very end of the first one, Simon Williams as Captain St. John Fawkes. Again, a few returning characters from the first one, with Toby Longworth putting an appearance as Sergeant Carstairs, and we'll hear quite a bit more from him. Now, Toby Longworth, I'll get this out of the way, he's a very talented voice artist. Sadly, he's another John Culshaw in that you can, despite his best efforts and his incredible talent, you can always tell when another character is him. But this one we actually get onto Mars, and you get some of the sort of Martian lore and background and how Martian society works, how the British and Germans are fitting into it, and you find incredibly that despite the Permandesh crash landing onto the surface of Mars in 2 bits, there are a lot of survivors.
You mean pretty much the entire cast?
Yes, with the exception of Anthony Daniels, sadly. And there is an explanation, and it was in there, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was, but I do remember thinking it was bollocks.
They managed to find a bit of liftwood or something that was able to slow their descent. I can't remember. It was MacGuffin-y plot device insert here. That is entirely typical of the fiction that all of this was based on. I listened to Big Finish's first adaptation of Karnaki with Dan Starkey the other day, and I love it. I think it's wonderful. I think he puts in a brilliant performance. But the entire plot is set up, and then in the last 5 minutes, oh, here's this magical thing that we found, and here's all this backstory that would have made the rest of the plot completely comprehensible from the word go, that we're only just now telling you. Destroy Magic MacGuffin, everything gets back happy and shiny again. So this sort of last-minute wave of the hand, ooh, magic happens, woohoo, everything's back to normal, isn't a Russell T Davies invention for Doctor Who. It was happening before then, and is entirely in keeping.
No, I'm making rather light of that because I enjoyed this one as well. And there was a real good sense here of what Captain St. John Fawkes is at heart. He's a British officer with all British values, basically trying to prove that he's not the aggressor to pretty much everyone he meets. Doing a rather fine job of it. It's peppered with very sort of loose moralistic values. But as Simon said for the first one, it is boys' own adventure. This is what you're getting from these. Don't go into it looking for some sort of preachy thing. This is way before all that started invading every damn thing. You're just listening to this for a rip-roaring adventure, and I really enjoyed it. They're traipsing across the Martian plains to get to the wreck of the Permandesh to find the stone so that they can give it back to the Martians. Along the way, they meet various people. There are skirmishes, there's double dealing, there's double crossing. They get the stone, and it sets up for the next adventure. And it's a good second part of what turned out to be a trilogy. Again, another one, I just enjoyed the ride.
And again, it makes really good use of the setups that the core books provide. And the core books go on and they do other settings. So there's a whole thing on Phobos, which is one of the Martian moons. There's a whole set of stuff on Venus that we never get anywhere near. There's the moon, which we'll come to later. There's a thing about Atlantis. So there's lots of directions this could have gone in had it gone beyond the fourth. It's a really interesting setup that they make the best use of. Very good plots, well written, well portrayed. And, you don't go into this looking for Anna Karenina or something like that. This is very much based on the Alan Quatermain and things like that, Victorian action adventure. And I think it does a very good and pretty faithful reconstruction of that.
But either way, however you look at these things, we've had 2 cracking hours of drama here. Moving on, the third disc is The Siege of Alcleon, written by Mark Platt. The Red Devils are locked in the battle for the Martian throne of Alcleon, but the British and German invaders reckon without the ancient culture of Mars itself. Beset by worm priests and scroll riders, Captain Folks learns that the Empire ignores such powers at its peril.
Wunderbar, wonderful!
Have I written enough, Herr General?
Oh, you are mistress of the bleeding heart, Fräulein. This is exactly as I requested.
I am rather proud of the passage about defending my honour.
Yeah. The stones of Mars.
The very stones of Mars shall weep for my sufferings at the hands of my cruel German tormentors.
The gallant Sir Henry will never resist such cries of despair from so entrancing a creature. And now, I secrete your letter inside my own and dispatch them to the British encampment with all haste. And then, mein Liebling, I shall return to you. Excellent, ausgezeichnet!
Oh, Sir Henry.
This is where we see the Germans get fully involved, moving the chess pieces for control of the Martian crown. Philip Maverick's in it as General Hagen. What a wonderfully mellifluous voice.
And what a wonderfully vicious character.
Oh, yes.
But it is all very black and white. The sun never sets on the Empire, and the Germans are the beastly Hun. And that's just part of the genre. That's part of the whole setup. And it works. It's the way things would have worked if Jules Verne had been writing it.
This one is all tied up with a prince who survived the Bourbon Desk crash, his brother who's been put on the throne as a puppet, and basically the Germans trying to falsify a British invasion of Alcleon, this Martian city, and getting the Martians to build more German planes as basically slave labour to fight off an enemy that doesn't exist and thus gain control of the crown. It's a very tangled plot, but it makes a lot of sense, and it's skillfully written. As a way to round off the trilogy, it certainly ties up the loose ends, and I found it a very satisfying run of stories. This is my second time of listening to these. I didn't realise it wasn't an ongoing story. I didn't realise it was intended to be basically an anthology series. It just happened to start with the trilogy. So I was expecting more of this, which we'll come on to.
Well, I think the plan was to go back to it and sort of see other parts of the solar system and then go back and see how whoever was on Mars is doing, and the people who are on the moon, and Venus and the asteroid belt, and Phobos and Atlantis and things set on Earth. And had it gone beyond the 4 episodes, it probably would have done.
But as an end to the trilogy, final thoughts on this one?
Marvellous. Absolutely marvellous. The 3 stories completely flew by. Loved them.
They did. And as world building, I cannot fault this as 3, or near enough 4 glorious hours of audio. Really, really super stuff. Then we move on to the final story in the range, which is The Lunar Inheritance. Written by Richard Dinnick and Andy Frankham. The moon, lunar, devoid of life, of no interest to the British Empire, but appearances can be deceptive, as the crew of HMS The Indomitable discovers when an alien weapon cripples their ship. They must undertake a perilous journey deep into the mysterious underworld of Luna, a world certainly not devoid of life, and rescue a man who holds the key to a millennia-year-old mystery.
What have you done? My command!
All gone.
We will not prevent you from your course. Give them free passage from here.
You should expect a representative of the British Empire and his retinue in a few days.
What?
Any attempt at hostility will result in severe action by Kachuk.
If the impute wills it.
Good. As for you, Colonel, I suspect the Tsar will be fascinated to hear how you let a British officer with a conscience and a talking ant best a battalion of his finest men.
Yes, a battalion. Think about it. I still have men in the canyon. This is far from over, Blake.
I couldn't disagree more, Colonel. I have a heavily armed and, I dare say, hostile ship of Her Majesty's Royal Navy that is in most probability relieving your men of their advantage as we speak. Now move, mollusk.
Final one in the series, we have got, again, half a dozen people in this. Jason Mitchell is listed, although I'm fairly sure that is actually John Ainsworth. Helen Goldwood's in it. She is a staunch Big Finish regular as Annabelle Somerset. And Nicholas Briggs as the aliens, basically. I remember listening to these years ago when you lent them to me. And Lunar Inheritance was a big disappointment, I'm afraid. Partly because I was so swept up in the Martian stuff. And this was completely disconnected. It's a story all in its own right. No links to the previous three. And that was clearly the intention of the series as a whole.
Now, I don't have a problem with that concept, and I don't actually have a problem with the setting. I think that's quite interesting. The problem I have, among the problems I have, they do absolutely nothing with it. Now, I have the advantage that I've read all the source books, and this is lifted straight out of the details of the moon from the source books. So don't be thinking that the writers have come up with any clever plots, because there are some nice plot ideas that they do nothing with. There's a character that comes along with them, but turns out to be connected to with ancient machinery that is in the heart of the moon, that magically sorts everything out and deals the vicious Russians a blow, gets them captured. But all it is wander along. Oh, look, we've introduced character A to ancient machine B, and they have connected with each other on some ancient level that we're not really going to explain. Magic plot resolution.
Yeah.
They keep coming up with ideas, and there's the potential for a really good story here if they'd had a competent writer. But they don't, and it's just frustrating.
Andy Frankham I know from doing, I think he's done the Lethbridge Stewart books for Candy Jar.
He did The Secret of Det Sen.
Ah, yes.
See previous episode.
I mean, I really wanted to go into this because I knew that I'd not enjoyed it as much from the first time around years ago. So I went into it with low expectations. And in the pre-credit sequence, I was listening to it thinking, I've probably been a bit unfair here because it's a good, solid opening. And I think that, I don't know, my first glimmerings of disappointment came with this when, and again, you've just said it's source material, so there you go, but there's an insectoid race on the moon, and there's also a sort of more typically alien race on the moon. And because they've got the sort of alien voices and the ticky-tock insectoid voices. Again, nothing wrong with it, but we've been used to... the first 3 episodes have set up a bit more of a... not mature, but a more grounded
quality
drama. Yes. And...
with a plot that progresses rather than just, here is this situation, oh, right, and we move on to this next situation. Oh, right, and we move on to this next situation with no exploration or explanation. It's just, this has happened, and then right at the end it is magic plot dump resolution.
Yeah, it's the only one of the 4 that I found my attention wandering off. That's always a bad sign. If I ever reach for my phone, it's a bad sign.
I suspect that if this had been written by the previous writers, you'd have got a very good and polished workup of the same setting, and you may have got more episodes. If you're looking to fund further episodes and you listen to this, you'd think, well, you know what? Good start, but you've run out of steam really quickly.
I'm sorry to agree with you, but that basically is how I felt. Oh, I really didn't want to hate on this. It's not bad. It's very well produced. They're all well produced. And they're well cast, in fairness.
But no, I think the 4th one is bad. I think the first 3 are brilliant.
I think it fails in comparison, certainly.
No, I think it fails full stop. I don't think the 4th one was a good piece of drama, whereas I think the first 3 are.
Yeah, that's a fair enough appraisal. We are here to appraise, and that's not unfair. The series does go out on a low, it has to be said, in comparison. Oh, I'd love to be more positive about Lunar Inheritance. The only thing I can say is they are beautifully produced and they sound good, but no.
I'd love to be more positive about Lunar Inheritance, but it would have to be completely rewritten. The performances are good. The soundscape is good, but you can't get beyond the fact that it's a very linear, one-dimensional plot.
I even like the fact that the echoes in the cave took longer to echo due to the thinner atmosphere. I thought that was a nice touch. But yes, not a high point. Shall we rate the series in earworms?
This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends.
How many are you giving it as a whole?
Right. I'm going to rate this 2 ways.
I know where this is going.
Because I'm going to rate it overall, and then I'm going to give a rating for the first trilogy. Overall, it's a 6. But if I was only rating the first trilogy, it would be an 8.
You do throw a few dice into the mix, but I am going to give this, on the whole, a 9. Because I think, as a series, this has bags of potential, and I am bitterly disappointed that it didn't get beyond 4. I think I can see why, and if that was the reason, what a shame. But what I suspect is that 4 were commissioned to start with we'll see how they do and come back to it and commission more. So I suspect the 4th one isn't the reason why there weren't more of these. However, as a concept and a world build, I'm really impressed with this. In any run, in any series, you're going to get something dodgy. It's just a pity that there was such a plunge for the 4th episode in this little mini-series. But, no, bags of potential.
Yeah. And if you were listening to it and deciding whether you were going to carry on with it as an ongoing series, the last thing that you listen to is that 4th episode. That wouldn't encourage me to make more. The first 3 would. If you'd done the first 3 and then said, would you like some more of this? Yes, absolutely. But if the last thing that you listened to was that Lunar Inheritance, it would be, no, there's much better out there.
It's a pity, but overall, it is thumbs up because this was a really enjoyable listen. So the CDs are long out of print and I've had a look and you just can't buy them. I think there's 3 of the 4 available from America at a highly inflated price, but they are available on Internet Archive, I've found. So if you do want to listen to them, have a scrap round, you can probably find them. They do take a little bit of searching for, but they're worth it. So it's certainly the first 3.
And they'll continue singing it forever just because.
Dr. Exton, it's time for Podcast of the Week.
Well, this month I'm not going to recommend a podcast.
Oh?
No, I'm going to recommend a TV series.
What?
And I know it's a step away from what we normally do, but it is a wildly entertaining TV series that bases itself on the concept of the fiction of Jules Verne. It is a Canadian series from 2000, only lasted 1 season, and it's called The Secret Adventures of Jules Verne. Filmed in Montreal, according to the Montreal Gazette. It was the most expensive TV series they ever shot. It has some fantastic stars and guest stars. Michael Praed plays Phineas Fogg, travelling around with Passepartout and Jules Verne himself, and has guest stars David Warner, John Rhys-Davies, Tracy Scoggins, Patrick Duffy, Margot Kidder, Michael Moriarty. It's got some really good stuff. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, and it fits in perfectly with the Space 1889. So that's why I'm veering away from Podcast of the Week just for this month.
Coming up next month, we're back in Big Finish Doctor Who territory. It's Jubilee.
Oh, I remember loving this at the time.
Yes, so did I. It's a Colin Baker story, and it ended up being remade, kind of, into the Christopher Eccleston episode Dalek. So I have not heard this for quite a while. It'd be nice to draw a few comparisons.
Absolutely.
But if you fancy listening along, that's what will be up in May. Until then, thank you as ever for listening. We'll see you soon. Ta-ta.
Bye now.
The The Archive of Audio Antiquities featured Simon Exton and Ken Moss, and the announcer was Jenny at Blue Box 99. All featured soundtracks are the property of their respective producers, and no infringement of copyright is intended. Title music was by Edward White, and the programme was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.